Okay, well, welcome to week 3 of the beginner level trainings, Canvas tricks and treats. I'm going to share my screen here and we can go ahead and get started. So, just as a reminder while we're getting started here, if you go to your Canvas beginner level trainings course in the Canvas dashboard, you can click on it. And from here, you will be able to find registration links for any of these trainings. As I stated before, these are purely optional, and I know they're after school, so that's why I'm recording them and then placing them on this page so that they will be visible to you. You do not have to register for every single one of these. You can just register for the ones with topics that interest you. So we are in week 3, and today's topic is going to be discussion boards and then quizzes. So we'll be talking about discussion boards and quizzes and how you can set those up in Canvas. Additionally, I do post announcements when these new recordings are live. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this. So feel free to check this. I usually have been getting them out the next day. So this recording should be up tomorrow in case you want to re-review it, or if you're watching this for the first time, welcome. So if I come in here, there's my other 2 recordings for the week, and we're going to be right down here. So discussion boards and quizzes. What I'm going to do now is I am going to hop over to a discussion board. Now, I took today's topic and I combined discussion boards and quizzes together because this really is a great place to start when getting going with Canvas. So these 2 tools that we're going to talk about today are a great way. If you've not used Canvas before and you want to start, this is a great place to start because they're easy to set up, and it takes a lot of work off your plate. So I find that these are probably 2 of my favorite tools in there. So to start off with, we're going to talk about the discussion boards. What a discussion board is, if you've been in online college anytime in the last like 10, 15 years, taken any online classes, you've probably encountered these. Usually it's like, I'm going to ask a question, and then you have to answer the question and respond to 2 people or something similar to that. That's how I've seen it used in higher ed, back when I worked on higher ed courses and when I was in grad school. So I have a whole separate training that I could do on this, but there is better ways to use discussion boards than just that. But at the core, that's really what the tool is. It's a place for you to pose a question and for your students to answer questions or even attach assignments and things like that, that can be viewed for the entire class. So I have an example of one here in one of my training courses that I've done. So if you look at the top, it's basically, it asks a question. Then I give some directions about how to submit into the discussion board. And then if I come down here, I can see a bunch of my students have posted replies. So, and this was not a real class. So obviously I would probably want longer replies or more in-depth replies. In an actual class, this was just a quick training. So, but they quickly answered the question with either a sentence, and then they also had the option to post a video. So yeah, it's pretty nice how you can do that. So you come through here, you can hit reply, and students can talk to one another on here, so they can hit reply and they can provide feedback on something. So I've seen discussion boards used in that way. You know, if you're writing like a research paper and you've broken it into chunks, maybe you could have your students post their initial draft in a discussion board, and then they can give each other feedback on their initial drafts. So you know, that's one way that you can use these. So if I go through here, that's basically what it is. So it gives your students the ability to hit the reply button, and then they can type out a reply. And as I said before, they can type it with text. This is the same tool. If I'm going to be referring to last week's training when we talked about editing pages and assignments, it's the same tools as we had last week. So really the key here is you can have them attach a file to it if you wanted to. You could have them use the record media button. So if I do upload record media and go to record, I can hit start recording and plug a video directly in. So let's see how that looks. Blah, 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 blah. I'm recording a video right now. La, 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 la. And it kind of sputtered a little bit there because I'm currently using my camera in 2 different places. I find that it does that, but it doesn't do that if I don't have my camera on in another location. So I'll hit finish. And then what that does is it allows me to hit save. And it just plugs my recording directly in. So this is another thing that I like to tell people about for a possible replacement for, gosh, I'm brain farting the name of that tool. It was that video tool that we all lost access to beginning of this year. Flip. It was Flip. This could be a Flip alternative because it gives students the ability. It doesn't have like the editing features that Flip had. I miss Flip a lot, by the way. But it does give them the ability to post a quick video. So I will hit reply here. And then voila, I post my video directly in there. So it's just a quick, easy way for students to answer questions via video, but then also they can just type an answer. So another good way that I've seen these discussion boards used is for like bell work and exit slips. So pose a quick question. Students can go in and they can post their answer to the question. And then once you get started with class, like for example, if you're doing it for bell work, you can go through and you can look at user replies and then use that to kind of guide the discussion. And I have gotten some feedback that students that are more likely to not speak up during class are more likely to post into the discussion boards. So you'll get more original ideas that way. And I'll show this when we go over setting up a discussion board. You can set this so that they don't see everybody else's reply until they've posted their own. So that's a really good feature for getting original ideas in a discussion board. Yeah, and really that's it for how you use it. It's pretty simple. So students just can hit the reply button and they can reply to a question. I'm going to pause here and see if we have any questions in the chat, and then also see if anybody in the live audience has any questions. You are free to unmute if you'd like to ask a question, or you can post it in the chat, whichever you prefer. Okay. So it appears we have no.
Tyler,
Yep.
I'm sorry. I would just really like to see how you can do the hold off showing everybody's until everyone has answered. So that's all that would be interesting.
Perfect. Yep, we'll be going over that once we learn how to set up a discussion board. So yeah. But yeah, it doesn't sound like there's any questions about like how to use it. Like I said, I'll have to put something out there at some point about good ways that you can use discussion boards. But like I said, I like them because they're easy and it's a good way to get started with Canvas. So with that said, let's hop into how do I actually build something that looks like this. So I'm going to hop on over to our class. Thought I had the window open. I did not. Go to my dashboard. And we're just going to hop into example class. Here we go. So to get started with creating a discussion board, I had a question come in, by the way, asking me about the buttons over here and like for assignments. I just wanted to address that real quick. If you see like assignments and discussions and quizzes over here, you can create these tools over here, but it just creates an additional step. So what you do is if you go into this menu and you create an assignment or a discussion board or a quiz, you then have to come in and plug it into a module. So that's why I just kind of trained that. You know, once you've created your module, you can hit this plus button in the top right corner, and then that plugs it directly in. So it just takes away an additional step. So if you do see these buttons over here on the side, you can create things there. Just know that you are then going to have to manually add it to your module. So just because I was getting emails about that part of the training. So with that said, we've got an example module here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the plus button in the top right corner. And where it says assignment, I am going to pick the discussion board option. So I go to discussion, and then this is where I could plug in discussion boards if I already made them. So these three are ones that are already existing in the course, but I'm just going to do create new topic. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow me to create a fresh discussion board. So let's put in a title. Let's say this is I'm going to put Monday bell work or something to that effect. I can hit add item, and then that plugs it into the module. So theoretically, you could, have your students, I've seen some teachers, they'll do like a Bellwork module up at the very top, and then they just have the dates listed for each one. So it's however you want to do it. Just spitballing ideas. But once I've created the discussion board, I can click on it. And it's going to look like this. It's going to be blank with a reply button. In order to edit this was a recent update, by the way. I'm not sure that I'm a big fan of it, but you now have to hit the three dots up here in the top right corner, and there is an edit button right here. And then that's where you go into the settings. So I'll hit edit. And what this does is it posts up here. So spell word 2 words? I don't even know. Do that because it's bothering me. Okay, so from here I can type in my question. I can include any instructions that I want, and it's the same tools that I get when I create a page and an assignment. So again, that's one thing I like about Canvas. Once you learn this HTML bar and any of the tools, they're the same everywhere you go. So I'm just going to post a question though in this case. Let's say it's the middle of the year and my students already know how to post to a discussion board. So I'm just going to post a question. Let's say, what is your favorite planet and why? So I post my question, and then that's all I really have to do for this box. Then that brings me down to some of my options. So the first part is anonymous. What you can do is you can make these anonymous posts. So you can select this to where it's off and student names will be visible, so you'll know who all posted what. There is the partial option, and what this does, if I click on it, is it gives students the ability to choose whether or not they want to be anonymous. I've seen some people use that for like bell work in case you have like a really quiet student that doesn't even want their name attached to it. And then there's full, where it doesn't give them the option. So if you do full anonymous, it will hide their name. And by the way, whichever one of these options you pick, it does tell them in the box what it's going to do. So if it's optional, if it's anonymous, it'll tell them it's going to be anonymous. If it's not anonymous, it'll tell them that too. And then if they have the option, they'll get the option to select it. But for this case, I'm just going to select the off. The next few options that are down is disallow threaded replies. I don't know why you'd ever do that, but basically what that does is it turns off the setting to where if you hit reply, it like indents your reply underneath of it. So I would just never click that because I like the indents. But if you really hate them, that's how you can turn it off. So disallow threaded replies. And then this is the option we talked about that someone asked about before. It's participants must respond to the topic before viewing other replies. That's one of my favorite new options that you get in this update. So I'll click this box here. And then what that does is, and it tells them, it's like, you're not going to see other people's replies until you've posted your own reply. And so that's really good for getting original ideas in a discussion board. So participants must respond to the topic before they can view everybody else. I'll be honest, I don't know what podcast feed is. I've never used it. Maybe I'll have to play with that at some point. There is an option for graded. So if I click graded, I can make this an assignment that gets actually graded for the students. So I can click that and I can allow points. So let's just say I want 4 points because I like to mimic our standards-based grading system. It says display grades as points. You can pick whichever of those work. Usually I do letter grades since we don't actually have points. But if I do letter grade, I can do that. And then we do have a OPS grading scheme that should be turned on for your course if you're using the OPS template. But You can select those options to make this a graded assignment. So some people will have students turn in assignments on a discussion board rather than a traditional assignment if they want students to be able to share their work. This is good for like art teachers, or even when I was a science teacher, I could have used this for science fair. Just had the students upload their digital boards, and then they could view each other's stuff. So that's one way that you can grade it, but you don't have to grade it. The other option is allow liking. So if you want students to be able to like each other's things, you can turn this on. It's up to you. And then you can also make this a group discussion, which we are going to be talking about groups. I have another training series next month that's going to be going over some more advanced topics. And one of those is setting up and maintaining groups throughout your semester. But once you have groups set in your course, you can select this option to make these group discussion boards. So with that, if I come down here, there's also for grading peer reviews. I'm just going to select that off. Again, peer reviews is part of the groups thing that we'll be talking about at a later training. This is just a quick info kind of thing. But and then down here, same thing as assignments. So we talked last week about how to set up an assignment, and you can set a due date. And then if you want to, you can set dates that students can't submit until. And then you can also set dates that it'll stop them from submitting. Please review that video for more information on these subjects towards the end of the training. But once I've done that, I can hit save or save and publish, whichever I want to do. And that creates my discussion board. So then this is what it looks like. And as a reminder, you can always check and see what it looks like to your students by coming up here to view a student. Oh, I didn't publish it. That's why. Oh my gosh. Let me publish it and then I'll show you. All right, here we go. So if I come in here and I do view student up here in the top right corner, I'll kind of jiggle this to make my mouse bigger. Come on, do it. There we go. View a student. This is what it will look like. So up here it says you must post before seeing replies. Edit history will be available to instructors. What that means, by the way, I forgot to mention this. By default, if your students go in and edit something on their discussion board, you can go in later on and see their edits. So that it just shows up in SpeedGrader, which we'll be talking about in another training. But in SpeedGrader, it will show you what was there previously. This could be useful if like a student posts something bad and then quickly changes it and you need proof. You will get access to that edit history. So when I was at Creighton, sadly, we had to use that feature sometimes for med students who would post unsavory things and then try to edit the comment later, so it wouldn't show up. So I was shocked when I went to higher ed, the differences and the shocking amount of similarities between teaching middle school and college. So okay, so let's pause here for questions. That's how you set up a discussion board. It's pretty easy. It's even easier if it's not graded. You just type in your question and pretty much you can just hit save. So any questions about setting up a discussion board before we wrap up with quizzes? Okay, I'm not seeing any questions there. Okay, so let's jump into quizzes. So if I come out here, if I come out here, I have an example quiz right here. If I click on this, this is what a quiz will look like for your students. And really, it's pretty self-explanatory. A quiz allows you to post questions to your students that they then answer. But the cool thing about it is in Canvas, just kind of like Formative does, or Forms, I'm sorry, it will actually grade a lot of the questions for you. Really, only essay questions is all it can't grade. So this is a really quick, easy tool to use assessments. But if I do view as a student, I can see what this looks like. I'm going to reset my student view. Modules, here's my quiz. Your students will come to the quiz, they'll say, take the quiz, and then it just goes through the questions. So they can answer the questions and then hit submit quiz. And in this case, this quiz, which has a multiple choice question, it has a fill in the blank question, it has a math question, and a true and false question. Every single one of these question types will grade themselves for you. So it just reduces work from your plate, which I know you all need. So that it will grade a lot of that stuff for you, and then you can just review the results to see how your class did or see how an individual did as well. So I really like this tool. This is another great tool for getting started with Canvas. I've seen some teachers that when they just get started with Canvas, if they don't want to do a whole course at once, they just put their exams on here. So they can create their exams, which, by the way, there is no easy way to take a exam that's on a Word doc and just like plug it in here. It doesn't work that way, unfortunately. So you do have to create them question by question. But once you've done it, you can move this quiz to courses all over Canvas. So it's really you do it once and then you don't have to do it again type of situation. So you get your quizzes on here, and then that will grade a large portion of it for you. You'll really only have to actually sit and grade the essay questions. So I'm going to hit leave student view. And let's go into actually how to build a quiz and see what some of those options look like. So if I go to my modules area, it's going to be the same process as when I did a discussion board. I'm going to hit plus in the top right corner, and then I'm going to select quiz from the menu. So instead of a discussion, this time I'm going to do a quiz. And again, if I've created quizzes already, I can plug them into my module by selecting them, or I can just create a new one. So I'm going to hit create quiz. Now from here, you're going to get a couple options. There is a new quizzes option, which is the new interface for quizzes. And then there's classic quizzes. It doesn't matter which one you use. You can kind of play around with it and see which view you like. I've been hearing for about 5 years that classic quizzes might someday go away, but it hasn't yet, and nobody's ever said anything. And if you do create your quizzes in classic quizzes, you can transfer them to new quizzes, so you don't lose them if you make them in classic quizzes. So maybe check out both views, see which one you like best. There's really not too much of a downside to either. But I will say new quizzes, it can be a little bit buggier, but it has a lot more features. So I am going to demonstrate with new quizzes, and I haven't experienced a bug in a long time while using this. And I'm just going to give it a name. So we'll select new quizzes, and let's just say planets quiz. From here, I hit add item, and then I click into it. And this is going to look a little bit different. But from here, this is all of your quiz settings. So you can set points, which, by the way, if you leave this blank, you can assign points to questions and it'll just auto update this total as you add questions. So usually I just skip this right now. You got the same, basically the same tools that you would have with an assignment. So if you go back to review the assignment question or the assignments video, all these options are the exact same thing for an assignment. So I won't cover that. But how do I add questions to this? So the way I'm going to do that is similar to the new discussion board tool. If I click the 3 dots up here, oops, sorry. I'm sorry, they've changed that. It used to be click and edit. Instead, now there's a build button down here. So here's the build button in the blue. I click on this. And then this brings me to the building tool for the quiz. So I've got a title. I can put the title here. If I have any additional instructions, I can place them here. You just click on it and it's the same tools as everywhere else and you can type it out. So answer the questions below. I hit done. Okay. To add a question, I can hit the plus button. And from here, I can pick my various options. Now, I encourage you go in and play with this because there's far too many options for me to cover, but most of them are self-explanatory. Let's just do a true and false question. So I'm going to pick true and false because you set up a lot of these in the same way. So I'll do true and false. And then that does is it gives you the ability to add a question. So what is the third planet from the, wait, this is true and false. Earth is the third planet from the sun. So that is true. So once I've done that, I select the correct answer. So since this is true, I'm going to leave this clicked. If this was a math question, I could put an on-screen calculator on here. We won't worry about the outcomes or banking. And then down here, I can set the points. So if I do like 2 points or 4, whatever I want to do. Oh, and I forgot this. This is new. Question title. Usually what I'll do is I'll just give it a number, like question 1. But you can do it however you want to do it. I'll do question 1, and then I can hit done. And then that adds my question, and it tells me what I said is the correct answer. If I do the plus button again, that's how I can add another question. So I'm going to go to, let's do multiple answer. So we'll do question 2. What is a planet? What are the planets? And then I can type in various answers. So Neptune, Pluto, Iowa, Nebraska. And so obviously there's 2 answers. In order to select the correct options, that will be counted as correct when they select it, I click these boxes next to it, just like with the true and false, and then that indicates that those are the correct answers. But then with this question type, I get an additional option, so I can show a calculator, but I can also shuffle the choices. So what that will do is it will randomly shuffle these for each student that's taking it. So it helps with screen peeking. I'm going to hit shuffle choices. I always leave that one on. And then down here, you can put that it's partial credit. So like if they were to select Neptune but not Pluto, they get 50%. Or I can do exact match where they have to click both options in order to get the correct answers. Once I've done that, I can set my points just like before and hit done. And that's that. So like I said, take some time, play around with these question types. Like I said, most of them are ones that are going to be familiar to you. There's really nothing that weird. But play around with it, and then you can see what options are available. Basically, every question type you can think of is in here. And then the last thing I wanted to show you for setting up a quiz is if you go up here to where it says the top says build, I'm going to go to settings. From settings, I can turn on options for the whole quiz. So I can shuffle all the questions. If I want my questions to be shuffled, I can turn that on. If I want my answers to be shuffled for every question, I can turn that on. This option says 1 question at a time. So if you want the students to be able to see all the questions at once, you leave that off. If you just want 1 question and then they have to hit next to go to the next one, you can select this option. So in the example quiz I showed you all before, the quiz was all in 1 page. So it just listed out like this. It's personal preference, however you want to do it. If you want to set a time limit, you can do that. You can show a calculator all throughout the quiz. There's multiple attempts. You can hide the results from students. Like I said, most of these are pretty self-explanatory. If they take the quiz and you don't want them to see how they did right away, maybe you have to grade the essay or something, you can select this to hide the results until you're ready to push them out. So, but yeah, really it's just the build area and the settings. And then when I'm done, I can hit return. And that brings me back to my modules and I can see my stuff. So if I hit build, I can see my questions are still there. So questions about quizzes. I know we're right at time. Is there a way to lock the browser so students can... There is not a way to lock the browser. So there is something called Lockdown Browser, but it has to be purchased separately by like your school or your department. That can lock them into the browser. But what I'd suggest is if you're using these assessments in class, just use Apple Classroom, because what you can do with Apple Classroom is lock them into the Canvas app. So if they're on the Canvas app, you can just push it out to them and make it so that they can't leave that app, and then that does effectively the same thing. And you can watch their screens as they're going through the quiz to monitor. For at-home quizzes, I always tell people lockdown browser isn't any good anyway, because, I mean, most of your students have a phone. They'll just pull it up and look it up on their phone if they really wanted to. So, yeah. But if it's in class, Apple Classroom is the way to go. Other questions? Carrie? You have your hand up. If you have a question, you can unmute or put it in the chat. Okay. Well, I'll stick around for a couple of minutes here if you guys think of any more questions. I am going to stop the recording. Thank you for those of you that are watching the recording live and those of you that are watching this video. Feel free to email me if you have questions. That information is on the main page in Canvas. So we'll go here, down here at the bottom. So there's my number, there's my email, and then what my working hours are supposed to be, but it varies. So but yeah, that's my contact information. Feel free to reach out if you have questions. I'd be happy to sit with you and work on this. So I'm going to end the recording.